Hello and welcome. You're listening to and watching 2020 Coaching Convos with me, Julie Crabb. And you found me in series 5 called Case by Case, where I talk with guests about reflections from cases in their coaching practice. Now, bear with me if you've heard this before, but it is so important I need to repeat it, that in our conversation today and on every episode, we will be sure to uphold confidentiality in relation to our clients. And this is a really fundamental element of professional coaching and of our ethics and of our values. So in order to understand what we've learned, we do share information about our coaching practice with clients, but it won't be attributable to any individual with whom we've worked. Yes, I've managed to master that word, attributable. Yes. So in series 5, sorry for my over-enthusiasm there. So in series 5, case by case is all about exploring what's been learned. And it might be from a single case study, or it might be from a program or series of techniques that the guest is keen to explore. So this week, my guest is someone with whom I'm in the same cohort as we prepare for International Coaching Federation accreditation. That's quite a mouthful. And his style of coaching has gotten me searching through lots of Lefko Institute videos on belief transformation. He is the founder of Jonathan Turpin Coaching. And I just love the clarity and the simplicity and kind of immediate human touch bit of calling a business by the owner's name. It's really good. And he helps people, and I'm going to quote here directly from his LinkedIn profile, he helps people unlock coherence between who they are, what they do, and the results that they create. So welcome, Jonathan Turpin.
Thank you very much, Julie. I love that introduction. Brilliant.
Good stuff. And how are you doing today, Jonathan?
Yeah, pretty good, thanks. Weather's good.
Yeah, it is actually today. A bit windy here, but still sun's out, which is good. Okay, so, well, that was very British, wasn't it? Talking about the weather.
Absolutely can't shake it. Even though I live in the southwest of France where it's 20 something degrees most days, but
Good
it's not
stuff.
raining.
Yeah, that's important. Okay, so having watched a couple of YouTube clips of both you coaching and being interviewed, I kind of feel like I know you better than is really true. So rather than telling my story of you, can we start, please, by briefly hearing about how you became attracted to coaching, Jonathan?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I got into coaching through a few different ways. Um, I think the first seed that was planted for coaching was when my dad joined a network marketing business. And suddenly, when I was 16 or so, the house was full of personal development books and motivational speeches. That got me into personal growth, and I was reading a lot about psychology. And then the second seed was when I joined Scientology. That was a few years later, and I learned about different kinds of, psychological tools, mental models, and counseling. And I found I had a passion for helping people to change. And that
Mhm.
just led to more and more studies, more and more books read, more and more courses, and it just never stopped.
Mm. Brilliant. I love the phrase you used this about the seeds, the
Hmm.
two seeds, that kind of nice structure. And what I know about you is that your thinking and your coaching and your practice comes from quite an eclectic approach, but on a specific kind of way of supporting people. We'll come on to that in a little while. That's great. So thank you for that. So just focusing in then on this specific case study that you want to bring today, I'm very interested to see what we can know in this situation about several things. I'm interested to know what we can learn about the client and their role in coaching, about coaching and skills and techniques if they come out,
Hmm.
about your very kind of personal style of coaching. And from my perspective, I don't know if this is a tautology, but it seems very unique. I suppose we've all got unique styles, but yours seems particularly special, shall I say? And then if there are any other things that we kind of note as we go through that we think, oh, that's really interesting. Let's look at that and focus on that. We'll just pay that a bit more attention. Does that sound okay?
Hmm. Sure.
Good stuff. Okay, so let's focus first of all on the bit of the backstory to the particular case study. Could you just kind of give us a little narrative to it, and how it's kind of given you a strong impression, left you a lasting impact?
Yeah, sure. So this particular case study I want to share with you is I'm a professional trader. So if you know anything about professional trading or stock trading, there's two aspects that you need to be successful. The one is the technical aspect, the knowledge, which is the easy part. And the second part is then implementing that knowledge. In other words, knowing what to do and then doing what you know. And it requires a very high degree of emotional mastery, impulse control, because the markets can be very triggering. And so I had a client with this exact problem. He had already invested hundreds of hours and many years into becoming a professional trader, but he just couldn't handle the emotional impact of when the market turned against him. He would violate all of his rules, he would sabotage, he would do bad things that he knew was bad. So he was struggling to crack the what we call the trader's identity. So we engaged in a project to design the ideal persona or ideal identity of a trader. And in that project, we analyzed the beliefs of a trader, the values of a trader, the self-esteem of a trader, the self-concept, the relationships, the people that he's allowing into his space, the information he's allowing into his space, as well as his environment, his setup. So we were very, very detailed in creating this persona. And I think this is one of my most exciting projects. It's something that's been pivotal because it planted a seed which grew into something great. And I use this model in my coaching. I've even written a book about it.
Wow. Can you tell us the book title while we're thinking about that?
Yeah, well, it's currently called the Identity Stack. Well, because it's when I changed what I thought of identity as a singular and it became a multiple thing, I thought of it like a stack of cards, multiple layers.
Okay.
And that changed how I saw identity. It's not just one thing.
Yes. Could we, if we may, go back to something you said quite early on, which was emotional mastery? Could you explain what you mean by that?
Well, I think emotional mastery is having an emotional response that is intelligent, that is mature, that is, I wouldn't say contrived, but a response that gets you what you want. So if your response is automatic and knee-jerk and reactive instead of responsive, then that would be not mastery. That would be the opposite of mastery. Mastery is getting the input, getting the feedback, having the stimulus, and then pausing for a fraction of a second and responding with intention.
Mm. That's a brilliant explanation, actually. And as you were talking, it made me think of the phrase state management and
Absolutely.
the way in which we are able to kind of take charge of how what our emotions do to us. And I
Hmm.
can see how with a trader where responses are like so fast that managing state in that moment must be really difficult. Now, you sent me a little bit of information before we came on, and you said that you'd had 40 sessions with this person. It seems a lot of sessions. Can you say a little bit about that?
Yes. Well, 40 sessions because the work that I was doing with this particular client wasn't a superficial state change. It's not flimsy things. It's deep structural level change so that we can intentionally design an identity, a complete structure. So when he sits down in front of those screens, he is not who he was before he sat down. He is a new person. He is the perfect trader, the consistent trader. And when you do that, you need to really cement in the beliefs, the values, the automatic responses, the automatic thinking, feeling, and behavior. And that doesn't come about through superficial reframes. A lot of, I see on YouTube, a lot of people, they call their technique identity shifting. And the identity shift is just a reframe, or it's just a simple thing, just a belief. Oh, we've shifted identity. That is not identity shifting. Identity shifting is when you create a complete persona and you're able to step in and out at will.
Mm.
That's what we created.
Mm. That's really interesting. That puts me in mind of um, a very sophisticated coaching capacity that I don't, or capability that I don't think I've yet mastered, whereby you can step into high empathy with someone and then step away in order that you can remain objective. Yeah,
Hmm.
that's okay. So, so it's about uh, a temporary, not a temporary shift, but a temporary adoption of an identity that enables the person to perform in a particular role. Have I got that correctly?
Yeah, well, it's temporary, but the point is that it's intentional. It's an
Right.
intentional creation of a perfect identity in line with your goals.
Hmm.
And you could superimpose this onto any role. You could say, okay, what is the ideal coach? The ideal coach's role, this identity is these are the coach's beliefs, these are the coach's values, this is the
Mm,
coach's self-image, this is the tech and the kit that a coach requires. This is
mm,
the education he requires. You could do that for parenting. You could do it for a whole lot of things. But
yes.
sometimes people don't have 7 years to become the new thing that they want to be.
Yes.
People that want to trade or be an entrepreneur, they want to do it today. So 40 sessions is a lot less than 7 years to be if
Yes.
you go the traditional route.
That's the smart answer. And it's a highly competitive role, isn't it? So I can see the desire and the need to get results really quickly. Um,
Hmm.
I had a question about ecology.
Okay.
So, yeah, just in case listeners and watchers aren't aware, ecology is something that in coaching we have to remain aware of in case um, a goal that a client desires or believes that they want is incongruent with other things that are going on in their lives. So, I guess a question that's going on my mind, Jonathan, is what if the identity that you're developing with that trader client in order that they can achieve their trading goals is out of kilter, not aligned with, or incongruent with the way that they are, the values and beliefs when they're not trading?
When they're not trading,
Mm,
I would say that when a client comes to me with a particular identity that they want to create, they've already reconciled all that. They know what their goal is, and they're steadfast in their commitment to achieving that objective. And if there is something in the way of that objective, like what was the word that you used? Ecology.
mm,
For us, that is a problem to be solved. What is the thing that's blocking? What is the value that is incongruent? What is the belief that's incongruent? What is the environment that's incongruent? We solve it because we want to succeed in our objective. So I don't see any kind of incongruence as a problem. I see it as a just something that you got to get over on your route to success.
mm. So might that come up as some kind of resistance in the client's progress or kind of, yeah, in their thinking and feeling about the goal? How might you observe
Yeah.
it?
Yeah, it can come up. I mean, sometimes it happens that, not with this particular client, but it happens with clients when the thing that they need to do, they don't want to do. And I'll give you an example of that.
Mm,
I had another client, and also a trader, with a very similar problem, and he would just go into a state where he just didn't give a damn. And when you're a trader and you stop caring about your profitability in your system, you tend to lose money real fast.
okay.
And then you regret it. Very soon you start to regret. So what we did with her, we had to help her with her state. She could not break state. Once she was enraged, or she couldn't crack it. So we had to work on her body, her fitness, her breathing, cold therapy, anything that would break the state. And what we finally found was ice water, face in the ice water, with ice blocks floating around the ears. That's what broke the state. And she was a little resistant, but now she likes it.
That's
Now it
fascinating.
works.
Excellent. And so, what you're describing there in kind of creating and building this identity using all the information that you know about what it takes to be the most amazing trader, excuse me, I'm going to cough, is kind of, it puts me in mind of an NLP practice because you have to kind of visualize
Hmm.
um, being in that state. So, could you tell us a bit about the techniques that you used with the client to achieve their visualization of that identity?
Absolutely. Before I get to the techniques,
Mm,
let me share with you how we find the techniques that we're going to use.
that would be useful.
We do a full assessment of where they are now, their current system, their current 18 layers of their identity, and we compare it with the ideal. So we look for the gap. And then we find, okay, so if you believe this, if successful traders don't believe that, if you believe that you're not going to be a successful trader, then we'll do a belief elimination process. So I think we always start with beliefs because that's like the low-hanging fruit. They're accessible, they're almost obvious because you know what you believe. If you're questioned, you can say, okay, I believe this, this is how I respond, this is why I respond that way, I feel this, this is why I feel that way. So beliefs first, then we do values. Values, we do a values hierarchy. I don't know if you're familiar with the values hierarchy process.
Mm,
We do the values hierarchy process, and then we have to then change the values hierarchy. So if your number one value is comfort, but you need to have discipline, or you need to have some kind of discomfort or delayed gratification in order to be successful as a trader or in any profession. You need to change your comfort down and your discipline and discomfort and willing to endure, your willingness to feel bad for short term pain and long term gain. That's what we do. So beliefs first, then we do values. Once we have that, that's really the foundation. Then we can look at other things like the self image, and we can do future pacing. So future pacing, we imagine a scenario. So in a trading example, imagine the market moves against you after you've taken a position or a trade. What do you do? So he knows that the trader knows what to do, but the emotions will try and stop him. We visualize the precise process. This is what you do. You do it and you visualize until it's done. And you do it again and again and again. So by the time they have that situation in real life, they've already done the right thing at least 10 times.
mhm.
And so that's like a mental rehearsal that we do. That's
Wow.
that's one of the, I mean, I think those are the three main techniques we would use.
That's useful. And just going back to values, I'm familiar with values elicitation and creating a hierarchy. Um, the da that you did with the diet with the bringing the comfort down, the discipline up, is that like literally mentally dialing them up and down in your imagination? How
No,
do you do that? No.
no, there is a specific step-by-step process to change your values hierarchy.
Okay.
And that
Mm,
has to, yeah, that is a little bit surgical, but it's just a lot of questioning, a lot of validating or invalidating that value.
right. Okay. Gosh, there's so much we could dive into here, isn't there? I wonder if we could talk a bit about. I know you said the client, this particular client that you're focusing on, was very coachable. Um, in your style of coaching, what role did that client play?
So in my coaching style, you may have picked up that I'm very direct and very, I get really excited
Mm,
about the coaching client because I see it as a game. It's like a computer game. And I want to win. I want to know what the goal is. What are the barriers? What are the rules? What rules can be bent? How do we win? So I have that objective. And when a client meets me and we have this talk and they feel that I'm on their side, so it's me and the client versus their internal system, and the two of us team up to beat that or to change that, to modify it in line with their objectives. And this particular client, they could pick up that energy, and he said, "Well, I want this outcome. What's it going to take?" And I thought about it, and I created a program, and I proposed it, and he was all in. So what I liked about this guy in particular was that he was 100% committed. He just wanted the outcome of this program. He didn't care how long it took. Well, he did, but within reason, he just wanted to get it done. So highly motivated, highly coachable. He was, I wouldn't say obedient because that's not really the word, but everything I suggested, he implemented because he wanted to be in the receiving end of the process,
Mhm.
engaging 100%, showing up, doing everything that was suggested.
Mhm.
And I think that is, for a coach, that's probably the best kind of client.
Isn't it just? Yes. But I think it also speaks of something about you as a coach that you're able to build that rapport and trust quickly enough and deeply enough that the guy was willing to probably make some quite big changes in the way that he was being and doing and having, if you like. So you've talked a little bit about some of the techniques that you used. Could you tell us about your coaching skills and what is so critical to success for you?
Well, my coaching skills are eclectic. They're diverse. They come from a lot of different sources. Um, some of them I don't want to mention, but they are before NLP, before these things, there were other things. And I read those books, I've read those books, I've followed those teachers, and I've learned the principles of personal change. So other things might develop and they might be renamed. They might be called, I mean, all the names of the personal development things, they come from a similar source, a similar
Mm,
root. And I read the authors of those roots. So I would put that in the coaching skills bucket as tools and techniques and tips and things. But in terms of real coaching, um, I would say the ICF core competencies is really what I'm trying to follow, which is championing, listening, being intensely curious, being respectful, just trying to help that person with a sincere interest in helping that person solve this problem. And I think sometimes I feel over invested to the point where it might be other coaches might say, "Whoa, don't do that. You're on it's thin ice there." But I suppose I'm a bit maverick in that way. Yeah, I'll go towards danger if it's going to help the client.
yes, that's what I quite enjoy about your approach. That there's an edge there. There's slightly radical. I suppose what I'd be interested to know is, do you think that the way in which you coach is more process goal driven?
It's definitely both. We have a
Okay.
goal. The process is determined by the goal. If there's no goal, then what are we doing? But in terms of the work, I would say most of my work is process driven,
Hmm.
step by step, psychological little mini epiphanies on the way to a big change, a big structural change.
Mm.
And you don't get that through general conversation, like a normal, a clean coaching session. Clean coaching doesn't provide that step-by-step structure.
Mm. And for a sustainable change, I'm thinking about this guy having gone through 40, what sound like quite intensive and quite hard work coaching sessions with you. Um, I'm assuming, tell me if I'm wrong, that by the end of which he was able to step into that trader persona at will, intentionally, as you talked about earlier. How how do you and he know that that's a sustainable state?
Well, he didn't eventually stepped in. He started stepping in almost right away.
Okay.
And then it became a matter of maintaining, setting it up, testing, maintaining, seeing what happens. You get negative feedback or just feedback. We handle the feedback. Is there a belief that's popping up now that you've cleared this? What's the next layer of the onion? So every session, we go a little bit deeper towards the core of the identity. So the benefit wasn't sudden, it was incremental and maintaining
Hmm.
until we got to the point where the maintenance was no longer required. He had
Right.
already embodied the new identity. He was practicing that identity on a daily basis. And
Hmm.
if he ever falls off the wagon, I'll be there to assist. But I think he's well secured in his new behavior.
Mm. So it's a series of mini ahas, cumulatively building till he was
Yes.
able to adopt. Yeah.
And
Okay.
you said that it was hard work. And there's the idea that it was difficult. It's hard work, but I feel that this work is always a pleasure. It's not painful or grueling. It's like going to the gym. At first, it might seem a little clunky, but once you start developing the muscles and you start getting fit, it's a real pleasure to work out. And it's the
Mm.
same thing with this kind of project.
Mm. That's a really good analogy, actually, especially since I've still got the gym glow. I came today directly from the gym, so it's very fresh in my mind. Um, so we're coming really close to edge of time that we have today. I'm just wondering, I feel like we've kind of given lots of teasers into the processes that you use, but haven't gone into them directly. Is there anything that you want to add to what you shared that you think would be useful for coaches or people looking for a coach to hear about the way that you coach, Jonathan?
Well, I don't offer any training. I do have books that are going to be published soonish. People can learn about my unique model in those books. But before that happens, I would say that without NLP, without understanding NLP, I would be, and most coaches would be at some disadvantage. And NLP resources are available. I would encourage anyone that's in the helping profession to at least study the basics of neurolinguistic programming. For me, it's been, um, I, I can actually draw a line straight to the source of most things from NLP.
Mm.
And
And you,
NLP is a very broad topic. There's hundreds of techniques. If you were to just study the top 10, you'd really be head and shoulders above someone that doesn't know
mm,
NLP at all.
yeah, I'd certainly agree with that. Yeah. Okay, so I think we've got to admit that time has run out on us, and it has been for me truly fascinating. And I kind of want to have you back very quickly on another episode. But yeah, thank you so much for guesting on Case by Case, Series 5 of 2020 Coaching Convos. But before we go, Jonathan, could you tell us how you might be contacted? We'll, of course, put this in the episode description, but yeah, how you might be contacted and any upcoming projects you've got in the pipeline, what your intentions are for the future.
Sure. The best way to contact me is through my website. On the website, you can see my services, my history, and there's a contact me button. So that's probably the best way to get in touch with me. I'm also on LinkedIn. If anybody wants to link in with me, that'd be great. Future projects, well, I'm working on the books, and that takes up a lot of my time. I've been writing and writing and rewriting to the point of hating the book. And I think that's what a lot of writers go through. But that's what I'm spending my time on now is just finishing these books.
Brilliant. Thank you. And I think that speaks to your directness that, yes, the contact me button is the thing. Brilliant. So thank you, Jonathan, of
Thank you,
Jonathan
Julie.
Turpin Coaching. And thank you to listeners and watchers. If you do like what you see and you hear, please like, subscribe, share, and tell me what you want to hear more about in 2020 Coaching Convos with me, Julie Crabb. Till next time.